everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills Housing Update. So I have March's numbers, which are not great, as well as what has happened the last few weeks in Halton Hills to see how April has started, also not great. So let's take a look at the numbers. On my last update, I sort of discussed how I thought prices might have softened because we were seeing a ton of lower price point stuff selling and not really the higher stuff. So what I thought was gonna happen is correct, it's just not. It is worse than I thought it was going to be. So looking year to year, in March of 2025, so last year, our average price was $947,000. This year, we came in at $880,000 in terms of our average price in Halton Hills. $880,483 to be exact. This is an important conversation because in March of 2022, when we were in the peak of the market, our average price was over $1.4 million. Sellers still can't wrap their head around how dramatic some of the pricing has dropped. And this just shows you, we have dropped almost 40% in terms of our average pricing since March of 2022. Another super notable point is the last time our average price was in the $880 range was in July of 2020. So in that heat of COVID, our average price was between $750 and $875, kind of in that March to July window of COVID. So almost 6 years since our average price has been in the $880 range. We basically have wiped out any pricing growth that we have seen since COVID. It doesn't feel that doom and gloom when we're kind of in the market, but when you look at these numbers, they don't lie. And it is really shocking to see how far back some things have come. So 880,000 is a very low number. It's lower than I thought. I've been talking, it's really been sitting between $1 million and 1.1 for the last 15, 16 months. So this is a huge drop. When we're looking at, so we had 58 units sell, and 11 of them were over $1 million. So the far majority of products that sold were under $1 million. So that's obviously going to bring our price down. We even had 5 products sell under $500,000. Under $500,000 is just not a price point that we really can remember, it feels like. And so we had all these lower price point properties selling, and it just brought all of our pricing, the average pricing down. Looking back at last year, we only had 40 units sell, so our units sold is up. It feels like buyers are out. But yeah, the pricing is definitely not great. And when we have very low movement in our upper price point, that obviously is not going to pull our average pricing up. We're not seeing those 2 million plus sales that we're used to seeing. And without those, our average price is going to stay very soft. So this could just be a blip, but this is really a good opportunity for sellers to realize that oh, they're not just telling me that my house is not worth what I think it's worth anymore. These are real stats and the numbers are down significantly. If you need to sell right now, you need to have a different expectation in terms of what you're going to get, because it is nowhere near what you will have seen in 2020, even 2023 or 2024. It is pre-COVID levels. So when you think, oh, my neighbor 6 years ago sold for that, yeah, get that number in your head. So I think just a really notable month. I'm hoping that this is a bit of a blip where now that our lower price point is moving at a more healthy rate, that we can see those people moving into our higher price points. But right now, April did not start off great. So I don't even know where this is going to go. So I didn't do an update last week. So looking at the last 2 weeks, in Georgetown for the last week of March, we had 10 sales, which was really great. But the first week of April, we only saw 4 sales. So we are not seeing a huge amount of sales so far in April. And of those 4, only 1 was over $1 million, and it was just over $1 million. So as you're seeing, that lower price point is still really the strong pocket to be selling in. Acton at the end of March had 4 sales and no sales through April yet. And Glen Williams and the rural market have had no sales over the last 2 weeks. And Glen Williams and the rural market are usually higher price point products, so that's not really a huge surprise. So again, keeping our average pricing and stuff lower because we're just not seeing high ticket buyers out right now. So looking at our active inventory, this is sort of the silver lining, I think. We are only at 167 active units. That is up from 156 on my last update, but really that is not a crazy number of properties. Looking within that, Georgetown is only up from 95 to 97 active listings. We are not seeing inventory pile on the way we did in 2024 and then definitely in 2025, but we are just not seeing the sales levels that we need. So 97 available products in Georgetown. So looking at our price points in Georgetown, under 800,000 went down from 21 to 15 active units. This supports where the sales are coming from, so that inventory should go down. 800 to $1 million is also down from 28 to 25 active units. These numbers are relatively low, and so that is good news for the sellers in that pocket. But where we get tricky here is over that million. So 1 to 1.5 million has jumped from 34 to 44 active units. We're seeing a climb in that price point because absolutely nothing is moving really. So it's tough for inventory to go down. When you're seeing listings come up but nothing in that pocket is selling, like inventory is going to go up. And then the same with 1.5 million plus, we're up from 12 to 13. So not a huge jump. There's not a lot available over 1.5 million. That number is very soft compared to where we came from in 2025. But overall, like inventory isn't really the story here because it's staying relatively at bay. Acton this week is up slightly from 17 to 18 active listings. Again, that's like half of what we were seeing in the peak of our inventory in 2025. Glen Williams is up from 5 to 6, but that is less than half of what we were seeing in our peak. And the rural market is up from 39 to 46. So seeing some climbing in the rural market, but like nothing is moving there. If you have a rural property, you need to be extremely aggressive with your pricing because the demand for your property is so low right now. So overall, I think this update is not great. It's like, is this a blip? Because we have seen blips. Like last year, we had 1 month where it was like 1.2 because we had a bunch of products sell over 2 million, and that can happen. And then we had these blips where we were under 9. So I'm hoping that this month is just sort of a blip. And like I said, I'm hoping that lower price point movement can translate to those people buying higher priced properties and that market start to move. But right now, there's not a lot of great news for sellers. The only good news is that we're not seeing a flood of inventory. So our inventory levels, if we can see demand pick up, are at a nice level. But I suspect through April, as we always do, we are going to see inventory pick up. So it's really interesting to see what happens coming out of such a bad month like March. I mean, the units sold were there, but just the price point, everything was so low. So we'll have to see what happens in April. Not a great start so far, but we know that that can turn around. So I will be back next week. Have a great week, everyone.